Hello, this is an overview of the Canon EF 70-300mm telephoto lens. And here we have the lens up close. The first thing to point out is that it is an EF lens mount as opposed to an EFS. This is going to mean that it's going to work on all forms of Canon digital SLR cameras. The actual weight of the lens is 630 grams, so it's not too heavy, and the actual casing of the lens body itself, is made out of plastic. So there's a number of different functions on the lens itself. Firstly, you've got the autofocus and manual focus switch, image stabilizer buttons to switch it on and off, and to switch between mode 1 and mode 2. You also have a zoom lock button which you can select, which will then stop any form of lens creep. The maximum aperture of this lens is f4 to 5.6. If you wanted to get a telephoto lens with a larger maximum aperture, you're probably going to have to look into one of the L series of lenses. So here we have the lens attached to a Canon 20D digital camera. When zoomed into 300mm, the barrel of the lens extends like this. Typically this lens is rather quick and quiet to focus. This is because it has a Canon USM ring motor. I mentioned previously that there is image stabilization. There are two modes. Mode 1 will control image stabilization in the horizontal and vertical axes. Mode 2 will stabilize the image in the vertical axis only. So typically you will use Mode 2 for when you are taking a picture of a moving object, such as a car for example. Now when image stabilization is actually being used, you will notice a small amount of rumbling going on within the lens, as I will now demonstrate. So here we have a few examples of photos taken with this lens. Here we have one at 70mm. Here's one zoomed in at 300mm. Again a 70mm shot. And again. And finally, this is a picture taken 1.5 meters away. It is worth pointing out that the level of magnification will vary depending upon the size of the sensor within your digital camera. In a cropped sensor digital camera such as the Canon 20D that I have here, the level of magnification is 1.6 times the level set in the lens. Therefore, zoomed in at 300mm on the lens, the magnification of the picture you are taking is effectively 480mm. If you have a full-frame digital camera, such as a Canon EOS 5D or the 1DS, the magnification is specifically what is stated on the lens. You can see full-res versions of these photos if you go to my website. Now if you're in the market for the Canon 70-300mm, I thought I'd point out a couple of alternatives that are available. This is the Canon that I have been discussing. Secondly, we've got the Sigma 70-300mm lens, and this is the Tamron 70-300. The first thing you'll note is the Canon is slightly larger than the other two, and this will be because of the image stabilization. That takes a bit more space in the lens. The Sigma and the Tamron, however, do have a macro function, which the Canon does not. The closest you can take a photograph with the Canon is 1.5 meters away, whereas with the Sigma and Tamron, because it's got a macro function, you can get exceedingly close for macro photography. In terms of price, the Canon lens here is typically more than twice the price of either the Sigma or the Tamron. Brand new, the Canon lens here would cost online, I would think, between the range of £360 to £430. Now with the Sigma and the Tamron, to buy these brand new, you're probably talking more between £150 to £170. So the Canon is more expensive. However, you could purchase this lens, say second-hand or refurbished, and that would lower the price somewhat. But then again, you're taking more of a risk with the actual condition of the lens. But second-hand or refurbished, you're probably talking at a price between £280 to £360, depending on condition. With the Sigma and the Tamron lenses, these would cost probably less than £100 to buy second-hand or refurbished. So that's the Canon EF 70-300mm telephoto lens. I think it's an excellent lens. It takes sharp photographs, It's got a quick and quiet focusing mechanism thanks to the Canon USM ring motor. The image stabilisation is also an excellent bonus. It means you can take sharper images both at lower light levels as well as when zoomed into 300mm. It is more expensive than its competitors like the Sigma and the Tamron, and it's also less versatile. It doesn't have the macro functionality. But then again, if you really are into macro photography, you'd probably want to buy a dedicated lens for that purpose. So, I hope you found this overview useful, and if you want to check out more videos, please go to my YouTube channel, which is SLR Lens. Thank you.